I am from the University of Central Lancashire, and just to get it out of the way, that's in Preston, yeah? And I'm a psychobiologist. Now that means that I'm not some sort of crazy biologist that goes around, running around hotels stabbing people through shower curtains. No, that's not me. I'm interested in how the physiology interacts with the brain and how that changes our behaviour. And I'm interested in a very particular type of psychology. I'm interested in survival psychology. Oh yes, which has got me the fantastic nickname of Dr. Survival. Oh, I know, it's good, isn't it? Yes. And I'm interested in disaster situations. Now, when I started my PhD, this presented me with a real problem. Yeah. How do you find people in disasters, for one thing? And the other thing is that if you happen to be in an earthquake zone and you find somebody sort of crushed under a building, you can't really go up to them and say, excuse me, sorry to ask, do you think you could just fill in this questionnaire for me? Perhaps we could just do the bottom few questions. I can see you haven't got much time left. Or, if you're on a ship and it happens to sink, people trying to get into your life raft, you can't say to them, I'll let you in, but first of all, could you just do this cognitive performance task for me, and we'll see whether you're worthy of saving. You can't do that at all. So I talked to my PhD supervisor, John, and I said, John, what are we going to do? And he said, Sarita, you need to have a think about this. And I thought, oh, okay. So I went back to him and I said, I've got it, John. What we're going to do is we're going to create our own disasters. Yeah, what we're going to do is we've got some lecture theatres, go in with a bit of petrol, yeah? Then when the students come in, sit down, they'll all be looking a bit bored on the tablets. We're going to surprise them. Throw in a couple of matches, yeah? Set the place on fire, see what they do. Yeah, John wasn't keen on that plan. He said, do you know what, Sarita? I'm thinking the ethics committee are really going to have a problem with that. Apparently, you can't set students on fire. Not even for research. So I thought a little bit more of a think, and then John said, I've got it. Dunking. Ooh, dunking? I said, I do like some biscuits with my tea. And he said, no, that's not that sort of dunking. No, we're going to go up to the Nautical College at Fleetwood, and we're going to look at their underwater helicopter escape training vehicle, or as the staff call it there, the Dunker. And I thought, ooh, this sounds good. That sounds scary. And what I hadn't quite realised was that John was a great believer in what we call experiential learning. Yes, that's right. He liked you to learn by doing. And so the first experience I had of the Dunker was being strapped into it, hovered over a pool, and then dropped into the pool. It was rotated 180 degrees, and then I had to sort of unclip my harness and swim out. Yes, it's fair to say that I had really been thrown in at the deep end. Oh, come on, you got in for free. Anyhow, I really got a fantastic insight into how the brain works, or in my case, doesn't work when under pressure. So that was great. I now had my ethical stressor. Unfortunately, I was told that an N of 1, so a single case study, wasn't really going to be good enough for the rigorous peer-reviewed journal that I wanted to get my paper into. And so I had to go back up to the Nautical College and carry out a research project. Now, this was all good fun, it was fine. As a psychologist and a psychobiologist in particular, I was taking some measures, so I was taking some psychobiological measures. In that case, questionnaires for the psycho bit, and then I was looking at a stress hormone called cortisol for the biology bit. And that just reminds me, if you'll just bear with me a second, you can't pass up an opportunity for research, so I am in fact just taking my own cortisol measures. They are salivary, so I'm about to spit into a tube. Look away now if you've not eaten. Oh, that probably will, that will be plenty. Right, super. Gosh. So yeah, I spent 3 months drying out questionnaires under the hand dryer in the ladies' loos and refusing the offer of other bodily fluids. Yes. And at the end of that, what did I find? Well, I found that actually heightened cortisol and what we call an increase in affect-evoked intrusive thoughts, which is basically going, I'm going to die, isn't very good for rational survival planning. No, want to avoid that. And so a little bit later, after I completed my PhD, I was still working with John, yes, I know, and I said to John, what we need now is a really good intervention that's going to help people to relax, to calm them down, to make them chill out, to lower those cortisol levels. And did some research, and I came up with the perfect solution. Mastication. Yeah, no, you do it with your mouth. Masticate. Chewing. We're going to say chewing from now on. It's just too dangerous. So yes, we did some studies looking at the influence of chewing gum. But we did need another population, yeah? So I said to John, what should we do? And he said, how about firefighters? And I thought, ooh, firefighters. I do like a uniform. And he said, oh, yes, that's great, but I don't think they're going to have one in your size. And I was like, what? Yes, he was really still up for this experiential learning. And a week later, I found myself in a slightly too large firefighting outfit, complete with oxygen tank and breathing mask, in a flaming building, chewing very vigorously at this point. Yes. Again, my own insights into this were not enough for a journal, so we had to go back and run an experiment, and this presented us with a number of different problems. So the first problem was that it's really hard to organise group mastication. It's impossible to get 25 men chewing in sync for 15 minutes. It's really difficult. The other problem that we had was measuring the sort of subjective responses, how they were feeling. And I don't know who these questionnaire designers try their questionnaires out on, but it's not firefighters. If I was asked if I asked you lovely people in the audience, tell me about your levels of arousal. You'd probably give me something very sensible. You'd probably tell me about your heart rate, how flushed your skin was feeling. Not firefighters, no. They were very, very explicit in their responses. In fact, one lad drew me a diagram of his hose, semi-inflated. Now, the research assistant, she was just shocked. Frankly, I was just disappointed. Just disappointed. Anyway, what did we learn at the end of that study? Well, we learned that chewing actually can lower cortisol levels after you've been through something stressful. And, caffeinated gum in particular is excellent if everything around you is really going tits up. So that's brought me on to, my final area of research, what I'm currently working on. And what we're working on is looking at longer-term survival. So what happens when Mother Nature throws a spanner in the works and basically you can't nip down the road for a cheeky Nando's? Yeah, we're interested in looking at the effects of cold, tiredness, dehydration, sleep deprivation, probably all the things you guys are suffering at this moment, on the brain and how it works. And John said, why don't we go down and look at a coastal survival course? And I thought, brilliant, finally a perk. But no, it was in Cornwall. And I said, because I'd learned something by now, I just said, John, can I just double check? When you say observe, you mean observe. And he said, of course, Sarita. I mean observe. Which is how a week later I found myself in a tent made out of a bit of old parachute and driftwood, freezing at 3 a.m. during a hailstorm. Yeah? And I had my fire steel and I had my kindling. So I thought this is going to be really straightforward. I'm just going to create some sparks and the kindling will catch and it'll be fantastic. That just didn't happen. And then I had a stroke of inspiration, yeah? I whipped out my tampon from my survival kit, yes, and with that little bit of dry cotton, I was able to start a really good fire. So that's the sort of 20 years of research summarised there, and I'd like to tell you what I've learned. I've learned that dunking really doesn't include biscuits. that group mastication is something that you really have to be careful saying in lectures, and that you should never ever trust John. And with that, I would like to thank you. You've been a fantastic audience. Unfortunately, I probably won't remember any of this because I reckon my cortisol levels are pretty high at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, Producer Robinson. And I think I am right in saying that although this city sees many exciting things, live cortisol collection on stage is a first for the Edinburgh Festival. Let's hear it! Wow!